Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with veteran jazz saxophonist and clarinetist David Murray. While on tour in Montreal, he opened up about his life, growing up in Oakland, and then arriving in New York as a 20-year-old student back in 1975. And things have been on the up and up ever since. Amongst so many things, he is the founding member of the World Saxophone Quartet and is contributing to the rise of young talents like Lafeyette Gilchrist. He's got a great future ahead of him, he's had a great past, and with much more music to come. So dig this interview, my friends.
What's been going on? I know you said you're in Montreal and you're on tour now, but give me kind of a snapshot of what's going on with you lately.
Well, I'm on tour with Cahill Wells a Bar, and we're just leaving Ottawa. We played last night at the Mercury Lounge, and we're on our way to a place in Toronto, and then on to Detroit and Pittsburgh and Chicago. After which I'll probably go to New York for a day and a half, 2 days, and then go on vacation for Paris and go on vacation to Sines, Portugal, where we have a house there on the Atlantic, and be with my family there and my kids, and really have a chance to just relax. And actually, I'm in the process of writing a book, so in the next few days, I have to finish the chapter on the conductor, Butch Morris. So that's kind of what I'm doing with that. I have an editor, Paul Devlin, and we're working vigorously to try to get it to the book company through the agent. So it's kind of in the process right now. There are things that are coming up for me at the Winter Jazz Festival. I'm going to, on the 6th, at the New School, we're going to present the group I have with my son, Mingus Murray, on guitar, and bass player and piano player, Lafeyette Gilchrist, and probably Rashawn Carter and his brother Russell. We're going to play with the Winter Jazz Festival. That's going to be my presentation, and I think the big band is going to start up real soon at one of the clubs in New York. I'm not going to mention that yet because it's not completely nailed down, but my big band will be coming up, and I'll probably do two nights in every month at a well-known club. I'll be playing the Vanguard in May the 2nd through the 7th. There's various gigs with the trio, with the MCA trio, with Power Trio, with Jerry Allen and Terry Lynn Carrington. We just came back from London. We were on the cover of Jazz Wise. That was quite nice, and we played at the Jazz d'Or in Strasbourg. There's things happening. I'm trying to develop myself back, establish myself back in New York City. I'm sure the big band excitement will help, and there are a lot of young musicians coming around knowing that I'm going to be doing things, and it's nice that people accept me back as some kind of I don't know. It's not like when I came to New York the first time 40 years ago, but now I got a little reputation, and it's nice to that people realize that I have a long track record. I've done over 200 albums, and people recognize that of me, and they expect a lot too. I mean, I can't go on stage on crutches or falling down. I mean, I have to, when I present myself, I have to make a good showing. We did a beautiful presentation. I thought it was beautiful at the atrium at Lincoln Center with my Cuban ensemble playing Nat King Cole in Espanol. That was quite nice, and people accepted that it was capacity, and people enjoyed it. I mean, that's something that I hadn't anticipated doing that, but the guy wanted some kind of a Spanish project, and he actually mentioned something with Kip Hanrahan, and I really the last time we were together with one of Kip's projects, it was a big fiasco over in Sicily, so I wanted to have more control, so I did the Nat King Cole. I kind of brought it out of my hat from the past,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. How does a kid from Oakland grow up to have so much clout in the world of jazz, 200-plus albums, and all the accomplishments you've made? How did that happen?
Well, when I came out to New York, it was in 75. It was the second semester of my sophomore year. I went to do an independent study through the head of the music department, Dr. Russell, and Bobby Bradford, who was teaching there at Pomona, and also Stanley Crouch, the writer. He was one of my professors, and I made up my own kind of study, an independent study on the saxophone since 1958. Since post-Ornette kind of a study that would send me to New York. And a lot of that is important right now because some of the notes that I have are very relevant for the beginning of my book that I'm putting together now. So I went to concerts. I interviewed people. I interviewed Cecil Taylor, McCoy Tyner, John Cage, and people of that ilk, Ornette Coleman. It was very big.
Your main influences were Albert Ayler and Archie Shepp. What was it about their playing that influenced you so much?
Well, I wouldn't say that. You said that, but okay. I wouldn't say what you just said. But those two guys you mentioned are certainly down on my list. My favorite influences for myself, if I were to speak for myself, I would say Paul Gonsalves, Sonny Rollins, people of that ilk, Lester Young, definitely Sonny Rollins, people like Dexter Gordon, Johnny Griffin. Then we get into the Archie Shepps and the Albert Aylers. You have to understand, like when I was a young man growing up, and also I forgot to mention Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster. I mean, those are the guys that I really studied as far as, trying to be, kids today, they have an opportunity to major in John Coltrane or maybe the solos are readily available. Back in the 70s, I mean, we used to have to transcribe our own solos. We used to have records that we could put back to 16 and a half and play an octave lower and learn the solo, then speed it up and play along with the record, and at the same time transcribe it. Now all you got to do is press a little button on the computer and it'll come right up. So we had to work a little harder, but to learn the solo verbatim from a record is a lot more challenging than just reading it and learning and memorizing in that way. That way you get all of the nuances of the sounds of what these people are putting down. I mean, you get the breath inside of. In fact, Ben Webster, if you were to watch him play on a video, what you would see was that there's a sound of air that comes even before the note. So that's part of the note, the sound of the air and its expression. So all those kind of idiomatic nuances are very, very important to learn how to play, not just to ape somebody, but just to find out what kind of techniques that these people are developing in their individual time. It took years and years for Ben Webster to figure out how to make that fit at the bottom of the horn sound like an effect.
Yeah, sure. Well, what have you done specifically over your career to evolve your sound and who you are as a musician?
Well, listening to Rahsaan Roland Kirk when I was 15 and 16 at the in San Francisco at the what was that called? Keystone Corner. Hearing him play two saxophones and two penny whistles and maybe three saxophones in his mouth at one time, watching him extend the art of circular breathing, it was a big influence on me. And watching Sonny Rollins when I was 11 playing solo at the Berkeley Jazz Festival, I came home and I told my father, this alto saxophone I have that we got from school is really nice, but this guy named Sonny Rollins had a tenor, and it was just so much bigger, and it had many more different kinds of sounds in it, and I had to have one. He took me to the credit union, and I joined the credit union, took out a loan for $700, and the next day I had a brand new Selmer 1964 tenor saxophone, and it would be with me today had my second wife not threw it out the window.
let me ask you a question about the World Saxophone Quartet. You were a founding member. What did it mean to form that band, and how did it feel to be in that band?
At the beginning, when we started, this is our 40th year. We're celebrating it now. We lost Julius Hemphill in 1995, but he had severed from the group a few years before that because, Julius was just, he was a genius, and with genius comes a lot of other things too, is what I could say. So he was actually out of the group before he died, but it was hard to watch somebody kill himself. He lost one of his legs, but he was one of the primary writers for the World Saxophone Quartet. Going and playing, the band actually started in New Orleans. There's a great guy named Kid Jordan, Kid Jordan, who plays the tenor, and he teaches down at the Southern University. And his brother-in-law, Albert Baptiste, the great clarinet player, he just passed away a few years ago, and we were also in the group with the Clarinet Summit with Jimmy Hamilton from Duke Ellington, Real Love Call and all that, and John Carter, people like that. So the World Saxophone Quartet is kind of like at the time that we started in '76, there weren't many people like that. There were some classical groups. In fact, at first we found out there was a classical group called the New York Saxophone Quartet. They were a classically trained group, and they had the same instrumentation. And so we called ourselves the real New York Saxophone Quartet. Of course, we got a letter from their lawyer to cease and desist, and at that point, we decided to become the World Saxophone Quartet. And that's what we've been rolling under that nomenclature since then. So the individuals in the group, I think we were all pretty popular in the advent of loft jazz during that time. A lot of people, in fact, all of the members besides myself, they were all from St. Louis. They had grown up in this black artist group that they have there. In fact, Julius was actually from Fort Worth, Texas, because he's a distant cousin of Ornette Coleman. But after he got out the service, he started his family in St. Louis, and so he's basically from St. Louis too. So they're all from St. Louis, and we all met up in New York. And people used to put us together. I think we were probably four of the more popular saxophonists in that loft jazz experiment, and I just happened to be a little younger than them. It didn't really make a difference then, that I was 15 years younger than everybody, but now it does. I'm almost 62, and they're both. Louis getting up there. Julius is gone. Oliver's healthy. Blewett is having a few difficulties, but he'll be back. And and once he gets back, we're going to continue on, and maybe we'll have another 40 years.
Beautiful. Speaking of that, when you look back on your career right now, 150-plus albums, you've been all over the world. How do you feel about what you've done? How do you feel about your career and your mark on jazz?
Well, actually, this is the first time in my life that I've actually even had an opportunity to review some of the things that I've done. Because up until this point, I was happy to make a record, and I listened to the music very intently, and then I go in a few months later and then listen very intently for 2 or 3 months, and then go in the studio and then mix the thing. And then after I mixed it, it was almost like it wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to the rest of the world. And I avoided listening to my music. Now that I've gotten a little older, maybe it's time to review some of these things and see which things were good. I mean, I personally thought everything that I did was good. Obviously, nobody can be perfect, and I was in hindsight, I was not perfect either. But my objective was to be as connected and I followed every recording I did all the way up into the mastering. I was involved with every note and every bar and measure of my music, and I didn't want my music to be controlled by others. There's only a few albums that were I think maybe I lost control of my own music, but those albums are popular because they were done under the producer Bob Field, who also produced Love Supreme by John Coltrane. So I was the last guy that he produced, and that's well documented. He took me to Columbia Records. He took me away from Columbia Records and started Red Barrett, and I did several recordings, many recordings with him that were very popular, including a recording that was actually produced. I called him to produce one recording when I was with a Japanese company, DIW, on which I had recorded 30 albums with DIW, the Japanese label, Tokyo, and I produced another 50 more with other people. But the things, like for instance, we did one album called Jazzosaurus Rex. I'm not particularly proud of that. He brought in this arranger named Abe Osserman, his claim to fame was he would score the music to Miss America pageants. And I had to work with people that was really not really in my sphere of people, but they were professionals. Buddy Tate was one guy that I had, I guess, a chance to work with Bob Field's wife, Teresa Brewer. We did an album together, Softly I Swing. I'm not particularly proud of that album either, but that was because I had lost control of my own music and was trying to move in a more commercial kind of stratosphere. I'm not particularly proud of that, but other than that, all the albums that I did, my heart was certainly into it, and I was trying my best, is what I could say.
So let me ask you a generic question. Why do you love jazz? You've dedicated your life to it. I think it's loved you as much as you've loved it. So why do you love it?
Well, jazz is, to me, is probably a very ecumenical kind of a music. I mean, jazz allows people, like I know people that live on different continents, people that live in Japan, Australia, people live in Europe and Africa, all over the world. And they raise their 3 or 4 kids on jazz. I mean, they may not make a living like a Wall Street businessman, but there are actually people that eat because of jazz. And so, I mean, jazz allows, the umbrella of jazz allows all comers. I can't say that about classical music because in certain societies, it's very difficult for certain people to join the classical realm of and play and be allowed to make an income or raise a family from this kind of music. It's not something. I don't know if it's cultural or if it's racial. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to cling to either one, but it's impossible. Really, had I been a cello player from Austria, I'd probably be very good at the orchestra. But no, I'm a saxophone player from Berkeley, and jazz has allowed me to have a career, and I'm very grateful. And I think everybody should be grateful. I mean, jazz is a music that's created from the sons and daughters of grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren of slaves. So we welcome everyone into our music, black, white, Asian, Oriental, everyone, African. So I think everybody should really just put their hands together and just say, thank you, jazz.
I agree. Absolutely. My final question to you is this. Everyone has a version of who you are, your family, your friends, those that you play live for. But when you wake up and face today, who are you?
David Keith Murray, son of Walter, son of Catherine, son of grandson of Gus Hackett, who was a sharecropper. And that's who I am. I come out of the Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal music, Holy Roller, whatever you want to call it. I learned music in school. I learned music in the street. I learned music in church. My life, my people around me, my teachers, the great people that I was fortunate enough to be around that were older than me. I was fortunate enough to play people like John Hicks, Ray Drummond, Max Roach, great people, Dexter Gordon, Johnny Griffin. You know, I'm kind of like a Ornette Coleman. I'm kind of like a link in the chain. And as far as the tenor saxophone is concerned, you mentioned Archie Shepp and you mentioned Albert Island. I never knew Albert Island, but I appreciate Albert Island. I never studied him, but I listened very intently to him. And I played alongside Archie Shepp many times. I think the tenor saxophone would be a different story had I not come along. And I think that people are influenced by me just as I was influenced by people before me. So if there's no David Murray or Archie Shepp or Albert Eiler, the chain is broken. So I'm part of that chain, and I'm just as relevant as anybody else.
Beautiful. I like that answer. It's a great way to wrap everything up. David, thank you for reaching out, getting back with me. Thank you for your music and your story. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very good at what you do. I can see that. Come up to me and say hello. You come to the Winter Jazz Festival?
I need to come up and shake your hand. Yeah, I will make it a point for sure.
Yeah. Come and say hi to me, and my son Mingus will be there. So wait to say hi to you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to David for his honesty and his stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, or for all things Neon Jazz, the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.